Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Earthly Headlines. So this is pretty interesting, this article, because it has to do with the Greek island of Crete. Now, Crete is really mysterious because there was this ancient civilization that lived there at one point in time called the Minoan civilization, and not much is known about them. The only things that we do know, or some of the things that we do know, are like the volcano, the Santorini volcano that exploded near there, that kind of wiped out pretty much most of the civilization there. And also the Minoan civilization had they were referred to by other civilizations, mainly Egypt and even in some ancient Greek traditions they've been mentioned. So this article is about two burials discovered in an excavation at the Petra cemetery in Crete itself. So they were discovered in a pit of the middle Minoan-Era, so that's 2100 to 2000 BC in northeastern Crete. And here are some of the things that they found here, these beads. So the actual cemetery itself was dated, or the excavations rather, they were dated to 2800 to 1700 BC. And they've been going on for about 14 years, so it's been a 14-year excavation. So in the first pit, they found some burial that included the oldest weapon found in Petra, which is a bronze short sword. And then there's another burial of a woman with a large number of gold beads with very fine workmanship. And there's silver, crystal, carnelian, and jasper in there. So these are all really highly coveted rings. So here's an aerial view of the area, and it's pretty big. I mean, for a complex on an island, it's pretty big. And then also in the second burial, it was dated to 2600 to 2300 BC. So this is kind of a different era. This is maybe a few hundred years difference from the other one. And again, there are more exquisite gold beads, finely decorated jewelry, gold, silver, with a diameter of 1 millimeter, and these were all sewn onto some sort of garment that didn't survive. And there was a third burial, and it was comprised of a tomb made of perpendicular slabs forming a box-like structure. So it's almost like a crypt. And this contained two secondary burials of children under 10 years old, and they were buried with gold bracelets and sheets of gold. These were probably some royalty or some nobility, maybe, or they come from a nice family, something like that. And this cemetery is, like I said before, it's the biggest one on Crete. It belonged to an elite family, and they've yet to excavate everything. I mean, it's taken 14 years. One of my first thoughts is, wow, if they're still excavating this, it's taking this long, it's that big. Imagine what it was like in its heyday. I mean, if they had a cemetery that big, like, what about like the actual palace or the actual cities that the people lived in? So we're talking about probably a really, really highly advanced civilization here, who were pretty far along in their development before they kind of went away. And I mean, they existed when ancient Egypt was around, and they didn't, as far as we can tell, there was no like large-scale warfare between them. They were more in harmony with each other. I mean, in a previous episode, I talked about how the ancient Egyptians had borrowed some of the Minoan language, and the Minoan language had borrowed some from ancient Egypt, and they hired each other's scribes to write in each other's language for certain, like, funerary services, statues, monuments, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of mystery here, but I'm glad that this is kind of happening because more stuff is coming to light. The head researcher here, Sipapoulou, he says the cemetery contains at least 4 or 5 funeral buildings that were noted in 2018 but have not been fully excavated yet, of course. I mean, 14 years and going. This spot also contains 2 extensive areas for rituals dating between 1900 to 1700 BC, and then 2 periboloi, which are low-built enclosures east and west. So here's some ivory. In antiquity, so back in the day, Petros had a large port and served as an entry gate to eastern Crete. and they were trading the incoming trade of raw materials, objects from Syria and Egypt. The palace of the Minoan-Era and the excavation site. You can go. I'll put the link in my description. It's pretty large, the palace, and it dates to 1900 to 1800 BC. The preserved section covers 2,500 square meters, but it's impossible to calculate its original extent because the whole southern section has been destroyed. So there's a huge part of it that's just gone. So who knows really how big it was, but what's left is still huge. I mean, 2,500 square meters is that's no joke. And look at how rich they were. They had so much stuff. And a lot of people, a lot of countries were trying to, from far and wide, were wanting to trade with them. After the destruction of the palace, there was building activity in the cemetery that appears to be related to honoring ancestors. So this activity lasted until the 12th century BC. So obviously the remnants of the people, they felt so attached and so strong to their culture that they went back after it was in rubble, and they rebuilt certain parts of it to honor the dead from way back, from 1900, 2600 BC. So, this is a place with rich history, and if the ancient Minoan civilization was insignificant, then why would people bother even going back and rebuilding monuments to, for whatever reason, whatever cultural reason they had? Obviously their ties to their ancestry were so strong that they felt it was important enough to go through adversity to honor them. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of ancient Minoan civilization? I think that's something that there has been ongoing excavations, but also what's interesting to me is what's under the water in the Mediterranean there around Crete. They found tools from like 30,000 plus years. They found underwater ruins around there. So there's been talk that it might be Atlantis, but I don't think it's Atlantis. I think Atlantis is in the Atlantic Ocean. But there's a lot of speculation. So when there's speculation, that means not a lot of the science is settled, and there's still a lot out there to discover. So when I go through the headlines, I like to, whenever I see Crete, I immediately click on the link and read up about it, just to see what, if there's anything new that has come out, because there's so much mystery here. There's been a lot uncovered, but there's just so much that is obscured that I feel it's necessary to share. So tell me what you think in the comments. What do you guys know about Crete? Feel free to put in your 2 cents, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.